Today, artificial limbs are better, stronger, and faster than ever before. Robotic legs are breaking speed records.
Here we go!
Arms straight out of the Terminator movie are in the works.
As easy as that. Impressive.
And the race to create a mind-controlled artificial hand is happening now. So how far are we from building the world's first bionic man? Is the day coming when artificial limbs can outperform the limbs of the human body?
That is really impressive.
Inventor Dean Kamen is on a quest to find technology that will solve humanity's hardest problems. With correspondent Joanne Colin, they'll meet the mavericks whose radical ideas will change our world forever.
In the United States alone, last year there were 180,000 amputations, mostly the result of diabetes. And the numbers are going up worldwide. We've got to find a way to restore a quality of life to these people. The key factor would be better prosthetic devices.
So let's find out how close we are to building bionic limbs that can do what we do and even do it better.
It's incredible what's going on out there. Let's go take a look.
Absolutely.
I'm heading to West Point to see what the top researchers are doing to get our wounded warriors back on their feet. Lieutenant Colonel Joe Hitt, a robotics engineer, is part of a team perfecting a futuristic bionic leg. It represents over 4 years of hard work and nearly $1 million in development money. In the military, it's clear there's an urgent need to develop the world's most advanced prosthetic devices. More than 1,000 soldiers serving in Iraq and Afghanistan have lost limbs.
I joined the military in 2005 after a really good friend was injured in Iraq and ended up in Special Forces as a communications sergeant. Served in Afghanistan, and this happened early last year. Beautiful day in Afghanistan around lunchtime, and stepped on either IED or an anti-personnel mine, and literally turned my world upside down.
Doctors spent a month trying to save John's leg. Ultimately, they had to amputate it below the knee.
About 6 weeks later, I got my first prosthetic.
I'm really glad there's people like you that are willing to do the job you do. You are truly the country's great asset.
The basic engineering behind John's first artificial leg hadn't changed dramatically from those in use over 50 years ago. Wearing them could tire you out.
To get them to work, replacing the muscle power that an amputee lacks is at the heart of the problem.
The aha moment for the team was when we said, hey, we can actually do this with a motor and spring. And then we said, well, if we can do that, we could probably build a prosthetic device for amputees.
Joe's artificial leg is brilliant because it's so simple. As an inventor, that's a model I strive for in everything we design.
Joe and his team call their invention Sparky, which stands for Spring Ankle with Regenerative Kinetics. They found their inspiration in the most perfect machine of all, the human body.
The muscle will pull on the tendons, and with his motion, he will also pull on the tendons. Now, if you look on our robotic tendon, we have these springs. These springs then are the tendons. The motor then is the muscle.
You know, with a lot of great technologies, people say it's impossible, and then once it works, oh, that was obvious. Why didn't I think of that?
I think that's where we're at now.
To understand what the spring is doing, think of a diving board. On the first bounce, the diver is doing all the work. But as he comes down a second time, he's getting a major assist from the stored energy in the board. The genius of Sparky is that the power generated as John rolls forward on his foot is stored in the springs in his mechanical tendon. But it's not all the energy that he needs.
the motor inside applies just a little bit more energy into the spring to push off for the next step.
The design could be life-altering for amputees, not just for walking, but even getting them running again. For the first time ever, the team is going to try out the next generation leg at full speed.
All right, we ready?
Let's do it. Here we go. Okay, we're running.
That is fantastic.
What do you think, John? 6.7 miles per hour, that's the fastest any powered device has powered anybody.
This is the first prototype.
This is that very first motorized prosthetic ankle for running.
How does the natural one feel?
Natural one's a little hard.
One of them is getting tired.
With Sparky, the military wants to do more than just improve the quality of life of amputees. It may be bringing to the battlefield the world's first bionic soldier.
That's my ultimate goal, to go back to combat.
John represents the best of our country. He is our nation's treasure. He is our future. I truly believe in the next 2 years, a soldier like John can wear a device like that and be able to go back to active duty.
While I'm really impressed with the design of this leg, the next step is to build a prosthetic device that attaches directly to the skeleton and becomes a real extension of your own body. We've seen how motors and springs can do the work of muscles and tendons, but even the most advanced artificial limbs have to be strapped onto the body, and that can be very painful. But what if there were a way to literally snap an artificial limb directly to the point of amputation?
While Dean's been at West Point, I'm in London, England, to meet a real-life superhero, a woman with an artificial arm that attaches directly to the bone of her amputated limb. It's the first of its kind and promises to revolutionize prosthetics. To show me how it works, she's invited me to go shopping. Hello. I'm Joanna. You're Kira.
I am, yeah.
You're Britain's bionic woman.
I am.
It's a great name, isn't it?
Yeah, not quite $6 million, but getting there slowly.
In 2005, Kira was severely injured when suicide bombers attacked the London transit system, killing 52 people.
I was about 3 foot away from the bomber when he decided to loose off his bomb.
Gosh.
And I was quite lucky to make it through.
Only 3 feet away from
Yeah.
the bomb going off. Goodness gracious. After 3 weeks in a coma, Kira woke up to learn that her arm had been amputated. So it's been quite a journey getting used to different prosthetic arms that were very different from what you have now.
Yes. I went through this shield over here and it really hurt the shoulder because there's not much muscle tone, obviously. And your arm's quite hot inside,
Right.
and then it's sort of scraping on your skin, and then you've got straps that come over at the back.
In fact, none of these prosthetics fit Kira just right. She opted for an experimental surgery that attached a revolutionary new implant at the amputation point. Here, an artificial arm could be fitted directly to the skeleton itself. For a decade, visionary biomedical scientist Catherine Pendergrass struggled to design an implant that would not be rejected by the body where it breaks through the skin. Kira is the first person in the world to be fitted with the device. We went to meet Catherine at Stanmore Implants, where the device is made.
Amputees struggle in terms of attaching artificial limbs to the human body, and for people like Kira, it's difficult to put on and take off when you've only got one functional hand. One of the problems is that an amputation stump isn't designed really to bear any load or to hold an arm or a leg onto the body.
No, it can't have muscle mass or...
No, so essentially you need to do something that you can attach and get a strong attachment onto the body, and one way to do that is to have something penetrating the skin.
But this can expose the body to life-threatening infections. For over a year, Catherine and her team have been working to solve this problem. They desperately struggled to make it work.
All our research was fairly soul-destroying because everything we used, we saw the tissue growing down around the device, trying to eliminate it from the body as a natural healing response.
They turned to nature for inspiration. The fact is, there are very few examples in the wild where bone successfully pierces the skin. Contrary to what you might think, tusks and horns don't actually break the skin's surface. But there's one example that can be found nearly everywhere: deer antler.
As soon as we moved over to the deer antler, we saw a marked improvement in what we were looking at, which is the seal at the skin interface. That was when we started to think, yes, this is entirely possible, and this is something that we could see perhaps in patients in the not too distant future.
The massive challenge the team now faced, working with titanium. Could they design an attachment point that mirrors what's happening in a deer's skull? Did other scientists react with, this is genius, or did they just go, my God, you're completely crazy, nuts, you've lost it?
I think to begin with, because of the deer antler link, there was obviously a little bit of speculation over whether or not we were quite sane.
Did you have deer running around your lab at that point?
Something like that, yeah.
We have an antler here on the table, so this is the point that would join onto the head?
This is actually just immediately outside the body.
Okay.
The piece of bone that sits here is the piece that links the skull and the external bone. So this antler is actually made of bone.
And we know that bones are porous, so it makes sense that there is tissue integration. There is a way that this soft tissue is really merging with the bone at this specific point. At the microscopic level, the soft tissue contains a series of fibres that grow into the holes in the bone.
So this device has a series of holes associated with the region that specifically goes through the skin of the soft tissue.
So this is the deer here, and that sits on top of its head. Where is this in relation?
So essentially this would be mimicking that portion there.
Okay.
Do you want me to show you how this all works?
Yeah.
Okay.
Love you to,
right.
Yes.
I roll this down.
Oh,
and
sure.
You can see this.
Okay.
I just undo the strap here. So, to take off my click and go technology, and there you are.
Amazing.
Do you want to try?
Yeah.
Don't drop it.
I know. That is just remarkable. Look at that. Impressive.
Click and go.
Today, Kira remains the only person in the world to have this implant.
As easy as that.
The technology holds amazing promise for the next generation of artificial limbs, closing the gap between man and machine.
For people to be able to have the opportunity to have it, use it, it's great, absolutely great.
It's something that I'd worked on for a fair number of years, and to see it working so well with somebody that was clearly so pleased with how it was working for them was a fairly emotional experience. So I was just delighted to see it making a difference.
Kira's implant is a revolutionary invention that may someday change the way prosthetic limbs connect to the body. Still, the artificial arm attached to it is a fairly basic design. Building a true-to-life robotic arm is a tremendous challenge for any inventor. We've seen what a revolutionary bionic leg can do, and how an artificial arm can snap directly onto the body. Even so, the limb itself has limited movement, which is true for most artificial arms. Unlike artificial legs, which have already improved dramatically over the years, creating an artificial arm with all its complex motion and a sense of touch is very difficult to do. In 2005, the Department of Defense came to me to see if we could move artificial hands into the 21st century. We call our invention, which you control with a motion sensor, the Luke arm, after Luke Skywalker. The military's marching orders? Make it as lifelike as possible. I told them they were nuts. I also said that we were up for the challenge. DARPA, the research arm of the Department of Defense, has already earmarked over $100 million for the development of prosthetic arms, mine included.
To the open pinch number 4.
After 3 years of hard work, the VA is now testing our Luke arm in a clinical setting.
Greetings.
Hi, I'm Jerry.
This is a very special day for me. I'm meeting a participant in the VA trials.
Like
Pretty
that
good.
grip, don't you?
I do. I like it a lot.
That's
Let me
a
have my
pretty
hand
good-
back.
Why?
As soon as I met Jerry, I could tell he was a fast learner. He's only been using our arm for 2 weeks, but he's been wearing prosthetic limbs for most of his adult life.
I lost my arms in Vietnam in 1967.
Both at the same time.
Both at the same time.
While clearing an area of grenades he had booby-trapped, Jerry discovered that the Viet Cong had a surprise of their own.
Came to the last one, and Charlie had found my booby trap and booby-trapped my booby trap, and had 2 grenades, 1 in each hand, and only 1 was mine. After 6 hours, I walked into the evac hospital, and that's what saved my life. Half my face is plastic surgery. Got a plate in the leg, shrapnel throughout the body.
Jerry lost both of his arms below the elbow. He's been wearing prosthetic limbs for over 4 decades, including this one. It's controlled by a motor that responds to flexing his upper arm muscles.
Well, for years, all the thumb has been doing on prosthetics is coming to the pinch grip. I cannot even pick up this larger. Can't pick them up.
I knew it would be tough to build an arm that could give amputees the independence they need. A major challenge was how to control it.
If I roll my foot inward, I pronate.
It might look like magic, but controlling the arm comes down to this ankle bracelet, a motion sensor that can strap anywhere on the body.
And you can do stuff we can't do.
That's right. I'm able to...
Wow. That's impressive.
Put it in
that is really impressive. The military asked me to build them an arm that was easy to use, completely functional, and would weigh less than 9 pounds.
To do this, we designed the arm in sections that can work independently of each other. This means it can be easily fitted for a full arm amputation, above the elbow, or below the elbow, the model that Jerry's using.
Look at your wrist.
Figuring out how to control the arm was only half the battle.
With this, I'm gripped down on it, but I don't know how hard I've got it. Whereas with this, I can tell when I'm gripping it, how hard I'm gripping it.
The nerve endings in our fingers signal when we grip something with too little or too much force. In my lab, we devoted hundreds of hours to achieve the same effect. We designed a tactile signal generator. Basically, it interprets how tightly Jerry is gripping an object and translates that force into vibrations of increasing magnitude.
The harder you grip, the greater the vibration. That allows the user to do incredibly sensitive, delicate tasks.
Got a plate for you, olive oil.
If he picks up a violin, I'm leaving.
You're only limited by your imagination, and this is imagination. I can do what I did before, even though I may not have a hand. I can shave.
Ultimately, we're hoping an affordable version of the Luke arm will be widely available in the near future. Jerry's ability to quickly master the hand tells me it's doing exactly what we meant it to do.
Well, it's time for a little egg and a little toast.
Piece of toast.
My dream doesn't end with the perfect limb. It starts there. Now you connect it using direct brain control to allow it to become a real extension of a human being.
We've seen some major advances in artificial limb design, even a revolutionary way to attach an artificial arm or leg right to the skeleton.
Looks like a nice little plan.
Our own contribution, the Luke arm, is a technological breakthrough, pushing the limits of what artificial limbs can do.
I'm going to use a pinch grip because that's on a little bit of a hook.
For me, it's a real honor to see Jerry using our invention. To date, he's one of 19 people in the Department of Veterans Affairs clinical trials testing the arm.
Yeah, that would be. Take a look at that one.
The next frontier for inventors like myself is to do what was, until recently, considered impossible, controlling an artificial arm or leg with your thoughts alone.
This mind-blowing reality may not be that far off. Engineers are racing to make this happen now.
In a major breakthrough, I learned of a Swedish man whose hand was amputated because of a cancerous tumor. Surgeons attached sensors to the existing nerves and muscles in his arm, allowing him to control the prosthetic hand, called the smart hand, using just his brain power. 40 sensors in the hands send signals to the brain, giving him the sensation of feeling what he's grasping.
Det bygger på att jag måste använda muskler i armen som jag inte använt på många år. När man greppar hårt om någonting så känns det i fingerspetsarna som jag inte längre har. Vilket är fantastiskt.
The final frontier, to surgically attach a bionic prosthetic limb directly onto an amputee's body, one that's fully mind-controlled. In fact, it's a goal of mine to make this technology work seamlessly with the Luke arm itself.
We may not be there yet, but with all the recent advances in technology, we are getting closer and closer to merging man and machine.
How close do you think we are to truly having a bionic man or woman?
I would say within a decade, most of the technologies we've been looking at will be deployed in real products, helping real people live much better lives.
It's really going to change what it means to be disabled.
Well, as these technologies get even more advanced, the concept of a prosthetic device will start to be associated not with disability, but with hyperability. And people are going to be able to do things that you and I couldn't dream about doing.